Welcome to the disaster that is my kitchen. And of course my coffee maker kicks on right at this point. Alright, I am making a high protein, high fat cereal at home. Because reasons. Anyway. So what I've got right here is a mixture of 2 ground Brazil nuts, a teaspoon of ground flax, and a tablespoon of toasted, yes, I know this one, toasted coconut flakes. And I just ground them up in my blender, handy dandy blender. And because someone will ask, this is the flax seed. I get it at Aldi because I'm a cheap bitch. And then this is organic coconut flakes from Wegmans because you can't buy not organic because reasons. And then just 2 of these raw Brazil nuts. All right, we have furthered the cereal. If I didn't say so before, this is a raw cereal. It's a raw high protein meal. I'll explain later in a minute. But, all right, so I've added half of a Pink Lady apple to the mix. Diced, obviously. And I added exactly 4 strawberries. Diced up, of course. There's a tablespoon of walnuts and a tablespoon of cashews that I chopped up. I'm not a huge fan of cashews, honestly. I might switch the cashews out for pecans because I'm from the South and we eat pecans in the South. Anyway, I did add a teaspoon of hemp seeds. I got these from Lidl because, again, I'm a cheap bitch. Raw cashews, again, from Aldi. And chopped walnuts, again, from Aldi. Are we noticing a trend here? And I will be putting milk in it. Gonna add some milk to the mix. See, there's my strawberries. This is Silk Next milk. I like it. I can't have dairy. That's not fair. I could have dairy, and then my hands will swell up, and my joints won't work, and I'll get a migraine. And frankly, it's just not worth it anymore. Anyway, I did put a couple tablespoons of granola in here, and it's got words, I swear to God. Okay, I did put a couple tablespoons of granola in here, and it's got pumpkin seeds, shelled pumpkin seeds. I think they're called pepits? Or peptids? Something like that, I don't know. Hi. Some word I don't know because I'm illiterate. But anyway, so that's going to be breakfast. So while I'm eating my breakfast, I'm working on a thing. Why, yes, that does say Amberlyn Reed. He won't move, so I sat on him. Butt monkey, here you are. I even moved him out of the chair twice, and he still jumped back in. He's determined to sit. He does not understand that this is my chair. My chair. Okay. If you know, you know, and if you don't know, you don't know. This is a steamed egg. It's got an egg, obviously. And then I actually used some chicken bone broth with it. Just a smidge of Shaoshang wine and a little bit of sesame oil, some MSG, and some white pepper. And then you basically microwave it for about 1.5 minutes? 1:45? Don't judge me. I microwaved it. Okay? Okay, welcome back to my much cleaner kitchen. I have made raw carrot barbecue. It's raw because it's not cooked. Anyway, the main ingredient is obviously shredded carrots, but then I used... Come on, you can do... I used sun butter as the base for the barbecue sauce, but I'm very lazy, so I buy shredded carrots. I used soy sauce, vinegar, a little bit of MSG, bacon chipotle seasoning, which probably has more MSG in it, ginger powder, chili powder, and onion powder. This is a recipe from, I don't know if anybody knows Kate Flowers, but she put out a couple cookbooks a long time ago. One of them, the first one was called Freedom Foods, and it was a all raw cookbook. And she has since pulled all of her cookbooks and stuff off of her website because something diet culture, and basically people were attacking her for spreading eating disorders because she's thin, but whatever. I'm going to be eating it on thin slice. I actually really like thin sliced bread. And this thin sliced grain-tastic stuff that I got from, again, Aldi. And there you go. There's the finished meal. I like open-faced sandwiches because I'm a weirdo. It's okay. We will all survive, I promise. And that's pretty much it. I've had this recipe before. I really liked it. Oh, shit. The other recipe I really like of hers is her mock tuna salad, which is made from sunflower seeds. It's really good. Anyway, I think I'm going to make that tomorrow-ish, but I'm going to go eat because I'm hungry. I'm listening to Alan Carr's Good Sugar, Bad Sugar. I also picked up his Weight Loss for Women book because I listened to Kicking Geese and she was talking about how she used his vaping book. My camera's crooked. Hang on. I don't think that helped at all. I think it's still crooked. But anyway, I'm listening to Alan Carr's Good Sugar, Bad Sugar, and I also bought his Weight Loss for Women. And I did that because Kicking Geese used his Stop Vaping book. So, and she raves about it. I don't know, man. I don't disagree with 90% of what Alan Carr is saying in his book. I have the audiobook. I don't disagree with like 90% of what he's saying about sugar. Like his whole argument is that there's good sugar, obviously, and there's bad sugar. And good sugar is sugar that you get from whole foods, like fruits and vegetables and that kind of stuff. But bad sugar is processed foods, which I don't disagree with him. I really don't. But then he starts going on a tangent about... Well, he goes on a tangent about a couple of different things that I don't necessarily completely agree with. But most recently, he went on a tangent about rice and pasta. And I think I've ranted about this before. I don't remember if I put it up. But if I haven't, here we go. My problem with a lot of these books and a lot of these like nutritionists and dietitians and health people, especially on YouTube here, because you know we have regional blocks and stuff, so we get like you really only get the United States people in the United States kind of a thing. Alan Carr is clearly British. It's just going off of the words he uses, like till and Q, and what was the other one? Oh yeah, cakes and biscuits. Yeah, the guy's British. That's okay. I'm shading the British because I am an American and it is required by law here. I don't know if you know that, but anyway. My point is that the diet advice that's usually given out by people like that is very ethnocentric. And the reason I say that, specifically when it comes to rice and kind of sort of with pasta as well, the problem is nutritionally and dietarily, there's nothing actually wrong with pasta and rice. The way we consume it in the modern day, especially specific, okay, the way we consume it in the modern day in the Western world causes those foods to appear to cause problems, okay? Follow me on this one. The Western diet, we can all agree, is garbage. All right? I'm getting ready to eat a rice cake. The Western diet is garbage. And that's because we like to uber process our foods. We add tons of sugar, tons of salt, tons of fat, even powder. Did you know you could powder fat? Anyway, we eat hyper-processed foods that are made to be hyper-palatable and that kind of stuff. And people, especially the things that I've been learning lately with Kira Doctorly. I know that's not how you say it. I hope you all know who I'm talking about. And Sam at Every Size also did one that kind of piggybacked on hers. But this whole concept that, you know, white foods are bad for you. I remember I used to be a big follower of Rob Wolf back during the paleo days. And I'm a big fan of the concept of the paleo diet, and I'll explain some other time about why. I knew about that stuff before it became popular. Anyway, but this concept that like rice and now pasta are like villain foods is, like I said, very ethnocentric. And the reason for that is when you look at traditional diets, I don't even know why I'm putting this in quotes, but traditional diets from cultures other than the westernized culture, the westernized diet, you don't see health issues with those traditional diets until the introduction of westernized foods into the diet. And I'm not talking about like the tomato got introduced to Italy and Italy was like, hell yeah, let's run with this. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the introduction of what we see now as our canned foods, our convenience foods, our snacks and sugars, sugar in general, the way the Western world eats as well. Once all of that got introduced into cultures that had a more traditional diet, that's when we start seeing things like diabetes, obesity exploding, and other health-related issues that go along with basically obesity, obesity itself is a side effect of shitty diets, and the actual epidemic, in my opinion, problem is the Western diet, not obesity. Obesity is just the outward symptom of the Western diet. I figured since I got up, I finished getting dressed. Anyway, so when you hear people like Alan Carr and even Rob Wolf and other westernized, Eurocentric dietitians talking about how you shouldn't eat rice because it's evil and you shouldn't eat pasta because it's bad, they're empty carbs, they're not good for you, run away. You gotta take that stuff with a massive grain of salt, because it's not intentional that these are ethnocentric and Eurocentric opinions, because these people are speaking from their own personal experiences, and they're speaking normally towards their audience, which usually is westernized diets and people eating a Western style diet and living in a Western influenced world. There you go. I'm fancy. Anyway, the problem is by villainizing these traditional foods, you're basically sending this really weird, mixed, unintentionally slightly racist message to the rest of the world that foods that are not in themselves innately problematic now are, and therefore people who eat them are somehow uninformed or ignorant or don't care about their health. And the thing that I see happening in the real world in real time here in my own personal bubble is I see people specifically of Asian descent being told by their doctors and by dietitians to not eat rice. And I'm sure if there's like Italian people around, they're probably being told not to eat pasta too. But the problem is that rice isn't the problem and pasta isn't the problem. It's the highly processed foods and the sugar and the lack of activity and everything else that goes along outside of the rice and the pasta. If you take people, any people, honestly, you can even take people who are raised, people like me, people who are as white as said rice, and put us in a culture that eats a more traditional diet, and by traditional I mean whole foods based, pretty much all home cooked, not a lot of sugar or minimal sugar, or sugar that comes from natural sources like dates or unprocessed sugar cane, sweet beans and that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of places to get sweetener from that isn't processed white sugar. Now don't get me wrong, processed white sugar comes from like sugar cane and sugar beets, most traditionally here in the States. But the point is, the word that we're missing there is processed. That's not what sugar looks like when it comes out of sugar cane, and I have no idea what a sugar beet looks like, so I'm gonna, since it's called a beet, I'm gonna assume it doesn't look like white granulated sugar. I feel safe with that assumption. And probably if you just ate the sugar beet itself, it would be fine. But if you take people who are used to that traditional westernized diet and you put them on, again, a traditional whole foods diet, like you could take my fat ass and put me in Japan and have me eat a traditional Japanese diet that doesn't consist of any kind of processed food, and it's mostly whole foods. A, it's going to be very time consuming, I understand that, but B, because of that, my portion sizes are going to be significantly smaller than they are here in the States, and that again is part of the westernized diet. There's going to be very little processing in it, which means the chemical consumption I'm going to be going through is much, much less. Not to mention my sugar consumption is going to be significantly lower, as will my salt consumption. So salt is still kind of up in the air, sodium is still kind of up in the air as of what's going on with it, but probably we should cut back. I mean, anything in excess is bad, so we just don't know what excess looks like with sodium just yet, but we're working on it, so play along with your doctors, please. This is not me telling you not to do things that your doctor told you to do. Anyway, if you take me and put me in that kind of a situation, and I will lose weight. I will lose weight, I will become more healthy, and I will also be eating somewhere between 1 to 3 cups of rice a day, because I think that's the average rice consumption in countries that eat rice, because rice is the base of the meal. It doesn't even matter if I'm eating white or brown rice. I'm still going to lose weight, I'm still going to be healthier, okay? So there's that. Even the Weston A. Price Foundation, which is another one of these big anti-Western diet, whole foods style diet things, lifestyles, even they recommend rice, and I think they will recommend pasta. However, with rice on the Weston A. Price thing, they want you to soak it and ferment it overnight, and they want you to do it with usually a yogurt slurry mix with water, or they want you to put vinegar in the water, and they want you to let it sit out of the fridge overnight. The whole point is to do a light fermentation. And I will say, I've been doing that for years at this point. I think over a decade at this point. And if you ferment white rice like that, or white rice, if you ferment brown rice overnight with a yogurt mix going on there, it's not a thick mix, is irrelevant. It does make the rice taste, it makes the rice taste different, A, and B, it makes the brown rice eat like white rice. Like it's not hard, it's not chewy, it's not, the bran itself doesn't like get stuck in your teeth and stab your gums and that kind of stuff, which is a whole other discussion. So my point is, I have a point here, I swear to God. My point is that going back to Alan Carr and going back to people who are trying to clean up the American diet by taking out sugars and empty carbs, it is short-sighted to say that you should take out rice and probably pasta, especially homemade pasta, because homemade pasta is usually made out of an egg and flour mixture. Usually that's it, egg, flour, and some water to make the dough. So something that's made out of predominantly a protein and fat source with a little bit of carbs in it, I don't understand how that's an empty carb. Now, the box of macaroni that I have that I bought from the grocery store, yeah, that's probably empty carbs. So I guess that's my point. Let me reiterate one more time so that I'm sure I made my point. But when you're trying to diet and you're trying to cut out carbs and sugar from your diet, added carbs and added sugar from your diet, rice, potatoes, and probably pasta, specifically homemade pasta, are not the villains and are probably one of the last things you should actually be looking at to cut out of your diet, because they're not. If you look at cultures that exist on those foods, they've existed on them and used them as a base for their diets for, some of them, thousands of years. How long has China been around? Love them or hate them, how long has the Chinese culture been around? You cannot convince me that rice is the villain with that kind of a situation, because these cultures do not have the health issues that we, the westernized world, has until you introduce Western style diets into their culture, and then it explodes. Bam! And then, like, one of the first things I hear these people being told to cut out of their diets. I've had, like, I think 2 friends now who are of Asian descent who've been diagnosed with diabetes, and they've both been told, cut out the rice. No, cut out the sugar. Cut out the cake and the cookies and the biscuits and the added sugar to your coffee. You know, cut out the highly processed packaged food, cut out the food, the fast food, cut out the sauces that you're buying in a jar. Cut that shit out first, then come back to me and tell me that I need to cut the rice out, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, that's just a pet peeve of mine. There was really no point to that rant other than that's just a pet peeve of mine. Not a dietitian, thank God. Not a doctor. I don't have the stamina to be a doctor. I'm just an anthropologist who once upon a time studied evolutionary diet when I was in college, and these are my conclusions based off of my study, which is the only opinion you need. Anyway, thank you all for coming to my rice talk. Thank you all for coming to my bread talk. I'm gonna go eat breakfast now because it's probably soggy.